Hello YouTube, just working on my John Deere 3520 compact utility tractor, and the fuel gauge stopped working. So I ordered a new fuel sending unit, but it come for an open cab tractor, not a cab tractor. So on an open cab tractor, I think you'll have the one with a float, and that's hooked to like a potentiometer. And then the higher the float goes, the more output the reading, and then that translates it to your gauge. But this one, they had a hard time telling me how to take it apart. And then I had the mechanic here working on a combine, and I quizzed him about it, and he's like, I think you got to go either through inside the cab down into the tank, or you got to take the tank off. So I pulled the cup holder out, and you do have to do that anyhow, but you are not getting to the tank through here. But there's two bolts, one here and one up here, and they actually are these bolts here, and they go through the tank through here, and they hook up underneath there and up underneath there. And you do have to remove the wheel. And the only bolt that I didn't have to remove, I took the guard off the step, and then I had taken one bolt off here because originally I thought I had to take the plastic cowling off, but you don't. So you take the step off with these bolts, and there's one bolt down on the other side. That's the nut for it. Yeah, this bolt here, it goes up alongside there. And then that way you can drop the fuel. So you don't have to take the lines off. I never completely drained the tank. And then there is one holder for the tank that goes right here. And that's this right here. It goes like that and holds the tank kind of right there. Okay, and then you can drop the tank down. Oh, and you do have to unplug the light and then pop the light out the back, because the tank has to slide back, and then remove the cap because it'll be right up tight against there. And once it drops down, then you can put the cap through there, tighten it back up. If you're looking underneath, you'll see this bolt here, and you almost think that it's part of the tank, that you got to take it off. You can't get a wrench in there. Needless to say, you don't need to worry about it. Leave that alone. Okay, so basically take the two back bolts off the tank here, and then you got to remove a bunch of bolts. I think there's 4 bolts here on the front to remove, and then the step will drop down, and then throw the step out of the way, put your jack underneath there, your floor jack, to hold the tank up. It had just slipped, but there you go. You can see it moved the tank. And then, oh my goodness, this fuel sending unit is called a capacitance fuel sending. The potentiometer ones, they're like 200 bucks. And this thing from John Deere is 530. And basically it's these wires go up. One is for the light here, and the other ones come up there. Now I had some pinched wires, and I had hoped that one of the pinch wires, I just lost power to this capacitance fuel sender. So I played around with it, cut all the wires, spliced them together, still nothing. Because this was $511, I really wanted to see how it worked. And because it's a capacitance thing, inside the head, there's a circuit board. And obviously that's what fried. So yeah, I'm just gonna end up putting everything back together. And then, because when you take something apart, you have to see how it works. So this is the old one. And then I ended up just using a heat gun, prying into the side. I don't know what they glue these in here with, but oh my goodness. So underneath all of that melted in rubber is your circuit board. And somehow that's what's translating the milliamp voltage, because these rod, like that inner rod there, There's some isolation tabs so the inner rod doesn't touch the outer rod. And then when the fluid comes up there, it can read the difference because it's sensing electricity through it, I guess. And then this board converts that, I think, to the milliamp. I may have that a little bit wrong, but nonetheless, it is a capacitance fuel sender. And they seem pretty complicated, and they're much more expensive than the other ones. So yeah, I just hope that I didn't open that box with a new $500 fuel sender and it wasn't that. And if it had been wiring somewhere else, that would have really sucked. So it's not like I don't have something that can generate a milliamp signal. If I had of, then I would have. But all I did is your blue wire on this is your voltage, and the black is the ground, and the pink was the gauge. So all I did is I hooked it up, the pink, the black, and the orange, because now the color code from this side of the plug to this side of the plug changes. So the pink or the red there is the power, the black is the ground, and the orange is your gauge. And I hooked the orange, I just tapped it over to the red, and then I could watch the fuel gauge in the cab, and the fuel gauge went up, which led me to believe that the wiring from here to the gauge was intact and the gauge itself was good. And so then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna take a gamble on this, pull it out, put the new one in, dipped her in, and then the fuel level started to climb. So yeah, a bit of a pain. But an hour or two of just wrenching and pulling bolts or whatever, you will have the fuel tank down, and then you can switch that and away you go. So hopefully that helps, and I don't think there'll be any need to follow up on this. It'll be just a bolt and everything back together. That tank was a bit of a, once I had all the bolts down and all the bolts were out of the tank itself even, the tank still wanted to stick up into the shell like it was like such a tight fit. So I just simply on the back of the tank, like was grabbing here with my fingers, and then I could feel the tank moving. And then I kept just kind of working it to make sure that there was nothing else that was hooked that I was missing. And then once it started to kind of loosen up a little, then it sort of just, I was able to kind of just slide it down and over, and away I went, so. Okay, I think that just took 20 minutes to put back together. Seemed like it took a long time to take apart. The only thing I'm not putting back together right now is the light. Where the wiring harness had come through underneath the cowling here, somewhere along the lines, I had pinched the wires going to the fuel sender, and I had hoped that one of them wires was broke in the plastic sheet that had caused all my trouble. But when I had cut the wires exposed where they were squished, it didn't appear to me that that was the case. And then when I just twisted them together, the gauge didn't start working. So then that's when I went with the fuel sender. So I'll finish soldering them together and shrink tubing them. That'll take me a few minutes. Other than that, all back together. Hopefully I have a fuel gauge that works, or I will. I know I will. All right.